Ben Shapiro finally talks about why Candace Owens had to leave the Daily Wire. He went onto the Rubin report and talked about his thoughts on Candace Owens.
What's the Rubin report?
It's a show.
All right, so let's do the elephant in the room for just a moment, because I saw you this week on Piers Morgan. He asked you repeatedly about Candace. You repeatedly basically said,
I won't talk about
that.
Don't want to talk I'll say that here too.
Yeah, and that's fine. And, you know, it's interesting because we all sort of came up together to different extents, and we've all done a million things together in public events and networks and all of those things. It seems to me that at this moment, she's now a free agent. She happened to end up on Locals, which I created, and we're a platform, not a publisher that you guys are. Can you at least talk to just sort of where it's at now? She's not with you. She's free.
She's free to do whatever she wants to do, to be wherever she wants to be. And the difference between a publisher like the Daily Wire and a platform like Locals is obviously that a platform should have a very broad range of speech that it allows, including speech that maybe even the creators don't believe is inside what they would consider to be the Overton window. It's a very different thing than direct subsidization of particular opinions. So the Daily Wire would not have a host, would not pay a host who was staunchly pro-abortion. Mm-hmm. They would have no obligation to pay a host who is staunchly pro-abortion. And so when it comes to the hosts on the Daily Wire, obviously everyone is able to say what they want. Nobody ever comes to me and says, you can't say X. Nobody ever says that to Walsh. And no one ever said that to Candace. But the reality is that there is an Overton window at the Daily Wire. Obviously, there was a non-meeting of the minds. That's pretty much all I can say on this. And, you know, a lot of this has happened publicly.
Just real quick. One, why are they being so hush-hush about it? Why not just tell us why they parted ways? I don't get the secrecy.
Yeah, it's weird.
And now he's talking about Overton window. Basically, she's no longer a fit under their principles or under their beliefs. What did she say that would no longer make her a fit? Or if it wasn't about what she said, then how is she no longer within that Overton window? I don't think it's making sense to me.
Nah, it's not making sense.
Okay.
I don't get it.
But you know, to the extent that the Daily Wire is in fact not a publisher, it is that is in fact not a platform, it is a publisher. That means that there is no moral obligation for the Daily, and there's no free speech problem with the Daily Wire saying we don't wish to pay a particular host, or that host saying I don't wish to work here anymore, because again, there's a parting of the ways that is not really open for discussion at this point.
Again, why
parting
not?
of ways is not open for discussion right now.
When?
Yeah.
What do you mean right now?
When is it going to be open for discussion? And why is it not open for discussion?
Right. And what difference does it make telling us now versus telling us a month from now?
They got to figure out how they're going to say it. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. I'm just talking.
Does it surprise you that so many people, even on our side of this, are confused about that as it relates to free speech and quote unquote cancel culture? Like severing a business tie, as long as you're not throwing someone in jail, they're able to be everywhere else, is not.
I'm not super surprised at the controversy, honestly, because to a certain extent, I think that there's been a reaction on the right to the excesses of the left. So because what the left did is they said that—
But I have to pause it again real quick, because it sounds like the other guy, the interviewer, is trying to justify them quote unquote canceling Candace and making it seem like they're not part of the cancel culture by saying, oh, she's free to go do what she wants. She's still going to be able to have a job. She's still going to work. But then they don't make that same case when they talk about the masses or everybody else canceling somebody for what they said or for what they believe in. Like, yeah, they'll still be fine. Maybe they'll find another job, but you're still trying to cancel her off of your platform. So that's still being part of cancel culture.
Like he works for the Daily Wire.
Or maybe they're homies, I don't know.
Yeah.
The Overton window ought to be closed so tight that no one can get inside the Overton window. Basically, if you're to the right of Hillary Clinton, you can't be allowed inside the Overton window.
World,
yes, exactly. and not just with regard to platforms, but with regard to publishers. So, for example, this week, NBC News deciding that Ronna McDaniel was too much for them. Ronna McDaniel can't work at NBC News. The sacred halls of NBC News must not be sullied by the former head of the RNC. Jen Psaki, however, can have a show on MSNBC despite being the press secretary for the White House 5 seconds ago. Right? The right's response to that is, I think, correct to say you guys have shut the Overton window too tight. But I think some elements of the right have basically said there is no Overton window. The Overton window should be completely exploded with regard not just to platforms, with which I kind of agree, but with regard to publishers. So NBC News not only has an obligation to hire Ronna McDaniel, NBC News has the obligation to hire Alex Jones, for example.
Right,
which
just makes no sense at a business level beyond free speech. I mean, there's a reason that networks exist.
Right, they have editorial positions.
Yeah.
Daily Wire has a very strong editorial position on a wide variety of issues. And by the way, I should say that, there are a lot of people who are suggesting this is about disagreements over Israel. I mean, I can safely say it is not about disagreements over Israel, to the extent that, without reference to Candace at all here, Matt Walsh has taken the position that America ought not be involved in the Middle East at all. Matt Walsh's position, so far as I understand it, and I've talked to him about it, is that Israel, in a conflict between Israel and Hamas, Israel is obviously a more moral party than the genocidal terrorist group Hamas, but also it's very far away. He doesn't care, and it doesn't involve America. That's just a pure isolationist position. I disagree with it. I think it's wrong. I think that it's short-sighted. But again, he's on our platform that is well within the range of acceptable discourse at the Daily Wire. So, the notion that you have to mirror my exact perspectives on what Israel is doing in Gaza is obviously not true, based on the roster of hosts that we currently have. There are a lot of other factors, obviously, at play.
I think he's talking a whole lot of gibber trying to say it's not about Israel and using another one of his colleagues as an example.
He used another host or something on the Daily Wire. Mm-hmm. That's what he was talking about. Yep. Who had that view on the war.
Yep. But
So what is it?
All of this didn't start until Candace Owens expressed her opinion about the war. That's when this started. So I don't see it being about anything else but that.
Yeah, I mean, it'll come out.
Yeah.
Eventually. But it's just funny that they haven't come up with an answer or reasoning of why, the separation took place. But I really just want to know what the holdup is.
I know.
Like that's the part that has everybody suspicious and curious of what's really going on.
I just think they're trying to cover themselves up and trying to make it seem like they're not contradicting themselves or being hypocrites because they believe in freedom of speech, yet when someone speaks freely,